Hello, and welcome to Test and Longevity, sir. Monday, no, it's not Monday, it's Friday at 9:30 a.m. And here is Talon, our...
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Well, today is a bit of a surprise. We're trying out adding on Fridays to your regular Monday 6 p.m. And we've got a couple questions left over from last week that were submitted.
Okay.
But of course, you can also participate by putting your question in the chat section off to the right-hand side of YouTube there. We'll be monitoring that and answering your questions here live. And of course, we just want to mention that this is not meant to replace your relationship with your physician, nor should it be treated as personal medical advice. We're answering these questions for educational purposes, and how might you answer or approach these questions if a patient were sitting here in the office, but be sure that you do follow up with your physician on any health questions, of course. Dr. E, happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
August 26th is your birthday
and happy
today.
birthday to you in a few more days.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you got a grandbaby coming soon too, maybe today, maybe on my birthday.
Yeah, maybe on your birthday.
That'd be cool.
That's so exciting.
It is.
Life is exciting.
It is. All right, well, while we wait for some questions to come in on the chat, why don't we start with some questions that were submitted via email.
Yes.
If you're subscribed to our email newsletter, which you can do by going to our website, tlcdoctors.com, at the bottom there's an email subscription. You can join our newsletter, and we don't spam you. We only send out valuable information. We're sending out transcripts of these live Q&As and creating blog posts. You can go back and read questions that have been asked before, but that's where you also be reminded or notified before we go live and have an opportunity to post your question. That can be done anytime, not just while we're doing the live stream.
Right.
You'll also find under the description of the video, just below the video here, a link to that same form that you can submit a question anytime. So if you're watching this video tomorrow or in a week from now and a question pops into your mind, you can submit it through that form. Okay, let's start with the first question on the list, which is from Leslie, and she says, what can you tell me about supplements that help with the liver? I know about milk thistle, but recently learned of TUDCA, T-U-D-C-A. Are there studies on TUDCA, and what would be the recommended dosage? Thank you.
Well, number one, I'm unfamiliar with TUDCA.
I am too. I've never heard of that.
I'm going to have to add that to my never-ending list of things that I got to learn about from my patients. But it makes life exciting as a doctor. How do you spell that?
T-U-D-C-A. While she's looking that up, I can just mention off the top of my head, we have a whole kit. It's called the Detox Kit, and it's a program that is designed around phase 1, phase 2 liver detoxification. And in that kit, you're going to have all of the essential supplements that help repair the liver, help get toxins out of the body. And it comes with a guidebook that tells you a specific menu, a way of eating, detoxing, fasting, including a meal replacement shake that you would drink one or two a day for 7 days.
And the name of that is?
It's called the Detox, 7-day Detox Kit.
Core Restore.
Yes,
Core Restore. Yeah, and it is good. But in general, the number one detox for the liver is a fast. Giving your liver a total time of relaxation from having to process material. So if you can start out with what we call time-restricted eating, where you restrict your eating to, let's say, noon to 6 p.m., and during that eating framework, you would want to try and eat a diet that is low in processed foods. So that would be the first step. A 24-hour fast or a 20-hour fast. These are all very liver reparative. Drinking enough water. We would ask you to filter your water. But then if you're talking about supplements, herbs that I have found to be the most potent in liver detoxification, nothing compares to lipoic acid. Alpha-lipoic acid, 500 milligrams twice a day, is probably the most powerful liver reparative supplement a person can take. I have seen even information on amantadine mushroom poisoning reversed, for which there's no other cure with intravenous alpha lipoic acid. I don't know how much was in the bag, but I put alpha lipoic acid as a separate supplement if I see liver enzymes go up. I ask about alcohol consumption. I ask people to avoid alcohol.
Of course.
I also see more commonly liver enzymes go up with the standard American diet because it is so full of high fructose corn syrup filled things in the processed foods, in all these juicings and juices that people are taking and sodas that they're drinking. Fructose is only really metabolized in the liver in a meaningful sense, okay?
And by that definition, fructose would be considered a toxin.
A toxin, yeah. And so I would say alpha lipoic acid would be the key that you need to learn about. I put this also in a product we developed called TLC Metabolic Formula. In there are herbs and there are other items that are helpful to the liver, not St. John's wort. St. John's wort is so criticized in the literature, scientific literature, for its interaction with other medications like Coumadin or other antidepressant medications, anti-seizure medications. So usage of St. John's wort has value, but it is a herb that has known side effects or interactions. So I have moved away from that many decades ago. Okay, and I found that the simple molecule alpha lipoic acid, which is inherent in the mitochondria of all the batteries of all your cells, it needs that alpha lipoic acid, and I've never seen a problem with use of using that.
Right. And I know you love alpha lipoic so much that you've intentionally placed it in many of our proven MD items that were created by you and the other physicians here. There's a small dose for daily
liver detoxing,
yes.
assisting the liver. But again, so number one is start to learn how to restrict your eating. Number two, make sure that you are avoiding the alcohol and this processed food rich in all these hidden sugar items that are fructose based. And then number three, maybe get some alpha lipoic acid.
What about glutathione?
Well, glutathione is, again, we could go through all the lists of antioxidants that you could bring up CoQ10, you could bring up N-acetylcysteine, you can bring up NADH, niacinamide, and so we could say, yeah. And that's why it's in a good multivitamin designed to have all those things. But nothing replaces your own self-discipline of your diet and your lifestyle. Getting a good night's sleep is liver detoxing. So there you have it.
Okay. Next question comes to us from Zita and says, what is the protocol for using ivermectin as a preventative for travel?
What is the what?
The protocol for using ivermectin as a preventative for travel.
Yeah, it is now on the FLCC and the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons and other protocols as a twice-a-week dosing. And it's somewhere between 0.2 milligram per kilogram to 0.6 milligram per kilogram. So I split the difference and I give 0.4 milligram per kilogram. That typically comes out to a dosing somewhere in the range of 12 to 24 milligrams based on your weight. So if you're an 80-pound person or you're a 220-pound person, you're going to probably be up at that 24 milligram, the 80 at maybe the 12 milligram. So roughly 12 milligrams for a very thin, petite person. Graduated up to 24 milligrams if you're a big man, twice a week. That's the protocol for ivermectin for prevention.
Okay, great.
Now, another concept that would be possibly helpful is quercetin. Quercetin is basically what I've used, although I do have some backup ivermectin. I take 400 milligrams of quercetin twice a day because I have bad allergies, and this is the allergy season. But I use it all the time because my allergies are so bad. But also, over the years, learning as an integrative doctor in functional medicine, quercetin works as a universal ionophore, and that means as an ionophore, it helps the cell membrane to open up and let zinc get inside to the cell, and zinc then works to help your ribosomes to prevent the copying of viral replication, and that's how ivermectin works. That's how hydroxychloroquine works, and that's how quercetin works. And that probably is why I stay so very, very healthy.
Do we have quercetin in our Immune Protect?
Yes, I believe we do. And we also, but I use it mostly in
the DHIST.
The DHIST. So it's in Immune Protect, but it's largely what is that made the company Orthomolecular. That was their very first product in the 1990s, and it was such a valuable natural antihistamine. It made that company skyrocket.
Okay, last question submitted on the form to us was from Dawn, and Dawn has looks like a couple questions here. What are your thoughts about non-diabetics using continuous glucose monitoring? What brands models do you like?
Well, I'm all in favor of getting a grip on your diet and the foods that impact your diet. So a continuous glucose monitoring program is probably reasonable.
And I'm seeing more and more come out with technology, things that will interface with your phone on an app, a little patch you put on your arm that you can see throughout a day what your glucose levels look like, and also specifically what foods your body seems to be more sensitive to.
Right. I don't think people realize the impact of their smoothies. They are chopping up all these normally complex carbohydrates, and by chopping them up, you're turning them into more simple carbohydrates.
Isn't that what would happen anyways in the digestive system? Because you're going to chew up what you're throwing in your shake, you're going to swallow it, and your stomach is going to break it down.
It's a matter of dose presentation. So if you pre-chop it up, then you've eliminated the time it would take for your body to chop it up.
I see.
And then when you drink it in a pre-chopped up form in a blender, you're getting a massive spike of the sugar component of even good foods. That's why I don't support smoothies in general.
Right, and we see a lot of that. People that are trying to do the right thing, putting their spinach, their kale, some fruits, bananas, berries into a shake daily, and thinking they're doing something good for themselves. And of course, there's lots of great nutrients in that shake.
Right.
But what you're speaking to specifically is the presentation of that to the gut and that spike that you get in glucose.
Right. So regarding glucose monitoring that's continuous, I'm all in favor of it. But I don't think that this should be something that you should do, all the time. I think in a learning process about what you're doing, it has great value. As far as labels or product names, I don't have them on the top of my head.
Right.
I would ask the pharmacist there what seems to be selling the most and is most useful, and find out if you can get a Bluetooth uplink to your iPhone, so you can get this reflected that way.
Yeah, I keep seeing ads for this this company that developed an app and a device that you place on your arm, and it uses like a little suction cup thing, and it's pretty painless, I hear. And you just wear this thing on the back of your arm, and it's sending data to your phone throughout the day. I don't know the name of it, but you could search for that.
And then you could always do the good old-fashioned finger sticks. If you wake up in the morning and you do your finger stick, but then whatever you eat for breakfast, if you are eating breakfast, you should wait about an hour after your breakfast and do a postprandial. And so you would get 2 readings in the morning, and then if you eat a lunch, do it before lunch, because you'll see how low you got your sugar down from breakfast to lunch, and then an hour after lunch, and then again before dinner, and an hour after dinner. And it is in, are you able to get it down to your morning levels? And that is what the problem is. Most people are not working hard enough, with most of us having desk jobs. We are not working hard enough to burn down what we ate. And so we're starting at a higher start point before lunch, and then we're starting at a higher start point before dinner.
Right.
And then you probably are not really burning it down very well overnight. And so this is how you slowly build up this cache, you might say, this capital of sugar that will then be turned into triglycerides, the first fat. And those triglycerides will then be stored in your fat cells, which just enlarge as opposed to grow in number.
And this can lead to fatty liver. This can lead to insulin resistance,
Yes.
sensitivity. Yeah.
And that is where disease is caused. It's our diet and our lifestyle.
Right. Okay. Second question from Don is, do you think constant glucose monitoring helps people looking for instant feedback deterrence on their food choices? I feel like the data would help me adjust my perceptions with food choices.
Absolutely, and that's really the main focus of it.
Right. Because we all are similar. We're all the same species. We're all humans, but the way you react to eating an apple and the way I react to eating an apple
can have a wide variance.
Right.
Yeah, and your age will have a wide variance. Yeah. And so I'm always telling people we are all moving to a point of death. And the older you get, the easier it is to develop diabetes, and your capacity to burn carbs diminishes with age and time. So there are many factors that go in, and your muscle mass declines after age 40. So after age 40, with shrinking muscles that are burning up less, we're eating more, and we're less active, so we get diseased and we develop the chronic metabolic problems.
Okay, the last one from Dawn, and then we'll turn to the live chat. She asks, should I know my uric acid levels as part of general blood labs, or only if A1C or insulin are troubled?
Uric acid is not something, unless you have gout or have known to have gout. That's the large part of why we look for uric acid. But uric acid is another measure of antioxidant protection in your body. So I occasionally do it, even if the person does not have diabetes or gout. It's an indicator that they're moving towards these issues. Remember, one of the byproducts produced from a diet that's high in alcohol and high in high fructose corn syrup, which is in almost all processed restaurant foods, one of its byproducts of this high fructose corn syrup is uric acid, besides the triglycerides. So as I'm trying to assay a person's level of metabolic disease before they have high blood pressure or diabetes or a heart attack, uric acid is helping me to discover that. So yes, I think you should ask your doctor to throw it in occasionally, but not on every lab necessarily. I can figure things out by doing your fasting insulin way more than a uric acid's ever going to tell me. I can find out a lot more on your triglycerides fasting than anything else. And happy to see that finally science is coming around and catching up with me. So pat on my shoulder on my birthday. But, for decades, I have always said, I care not what your total cholesterol or LDL cholesterol is. I care about your triglycerides. And that tells me so much more with your fasting insulin. And all my patients know for decades here, I've been doing this long before these people are finally coming around and saying, it really is your triglyceride level. It really is your fasting insulin. So, and I give thanks to wise men before me, So it's not being smart, it's being humble as a Christian and being teachable.
Okay, some questions from the live chat. Jennifer says, can tamoxifen cause cancer in 1 year if the endometrial lining increases to 14 millimeters?
Well, I don't know the timeline, but it is one of the risks of tamoxifen therapy. Now, that's why I tend to have women stay on progesterone, even if they were estrogen and progesterone positive on their tumor markers. Progesterone is never the cause of cancer. Progesterone is the blocker also of the lining of the buildup in the uterus. Hence, I am, again, unfamiliar with the timeline that tamoxifen could do this, but I don't think in 1 year we're going to see anything. That would be early. Theoretically possible, but that would be an early thing. Um, Far more important is the person staying on a low-carb diet, because remember, insulin is a growth factor. Now, fortunately, you can do pelvic ultrasounds and you can track the lining of your uterus periodically, which we very often do here.
Okay. Emmanuel says, my wife had a cervical polyp a few years ago. Do you have any thoughts on what causes cervical polyps and whether or not they come back?
Cervical polyps show up periodically in any general practice and family practice or gynecological practice. We believe, I personally believe, that this is showing a tendency, even in the past, of having a high carbohydrate, high processed food diet, where insulin for a season was so stimulatory that the cells that are responsive to estrogen that proliferate and get the lining ready for another potential implantation. This area is also sensitive to the sugars and carbs, as well as the ovaries and polycystic ovarian. So I believe this is far more related to our lifestyle than it is to any genetic or other issue going on. Have I seen them recurrent? Very rarely, because we start day one with a new patient here saying, you're living in a carbohydrate pressured society, please lower them. Please reduce your sugars and your juices, don't drink, Don't offer juice to your children. Don't offer apple juice. Control their carbs. Get them eating protein and fat, which we're made of. So regarding the polyp, usually after they're snipped, and we always send it to pathology to be sure it's benign, they won't come back as a general rule.
Okay. If erythritol is an alcohol sugar, does it also harm the liver?
That's the $64,000 question, and that's the argument about its metabolism. It certainly causes diarrhea and gas and bloating. The gut bacteria seems to love it, and these are usually the bad bacteria in your gut. And so I think it's more a gut problem, metabolism, as opposed to the liver being a alcohol for the liver. And that's the best I could offer with my chemistry degree.
Great. You got a couple of happy birthday wishes from Garden Fairy and from Ray.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to celebrate tonight. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Where are we going?
We are going to King's Fish House.
King's Fish House.
Yeah.
All right. And then I can order cheesecake?
Yeah. They also have that butter cake.
They do?
They do.
Oh, wow.
That's a good one.
All right. So you order the butter cake. See, what we do is my husband's birthday is August. My son's birthday is August. My birthday is August. Our anniversary is August. So we all do this as a one-time dinner now instead of 4 events.
Robert says, don't forget my comment above, but Robert, I'm not seeing one for you. If you had a question, just go ahead and repost that. We still have just a few minutes left here. While we wait to see if there's any last minute questions, I'll just mention that you'll be back here on Monday for your regular scheduled longer format Q&A. That's at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And is there anything on your mind? I see you're holding some papers here that you wanted to mention.
Well, I'm always in the news, the medical news, and they have been coming out with an article about It's called Evaluating the Association Between Low-Density Lipoprotein Cholesterol Reduction, your LDL, and Relative and Absolute Effects of Statin Treatment. And this is a systematic review and meta-analysis. So this is by the Journal of the American Medical Association, and this was published, I believe, in July of 2022. And essentially what they're saying is the LDL and statin use, they report it in a fashion saying you'll have a 30% reduction risk of heart disease. They won't say death, heart attack, stroke. They'll use the soft comorbidity as a holistic statement. And when you're talking about absolute versus relative risk, they only use relative risk in their reporting. And basically, I'm going to read the conclusion. The results of this meta-analysis, 143,000 population of multiple studies, suggest that the absolute risk reductions of treatment with statins in terms of all-cause mortality, death, myocardial infarction, and stroke are modest compared with the relative risk, and the presence of significant heterogeneity reduces the certainty of the evidence. So in other words, a absolute risk, let me put it this way. Teelan, if I found a penny in the parking lot and I picked it up at lunch, and then I told you, oh, I found some money today, and then I came back from lunch and I saw another penny, and I picked it up, I would have 100% increase in my income that day.
Right.
I could tell you a relative rate of increase was 100% just by looking down in the parking lot for money.
It was only a penny, but it was 100% increase.
It was only a penny, but 100% increase. And that's what they do with this relative risk, and they did that with the COVID vaccinations as well. They actually would only report the relative risk, like 95% with, I think, Moderna, and 87% with Pfizer, if I recall correctly. But the absolute risk reduction was like 1% and 0.8%, which is ridiculous, you know? And I just want you to understand that you have to know your math. And then I read another article entitled Misleading Communication of Risk. And this was published in the British Medical Journal. And this was published as an editorial. What is the date of this? I didn't know I was going to bring it up. I don't have the date on this. Oh, yeah. It was published in 2010, British Medical Journal. And basically, what it reviews is mammography and how they report, like a 24% reduction of breast cancer mortality. And then they came up with another example. What was that on? Some other big testing thing. But basically, they said exactly what I'm saying. Unless you report the absolute risk reduction, which is meaningless, and they pointed out only maybe 25% of medical doctors know the difference between relative risk reduction and absolute risk reduction. And when they queried the doctors about percents and stuff, they said, oh, well, maybe you'll drop from, 250 deaths per thousand to 5. Or you'll drop from, 200 deaths per thousand to 1. Where in reality, it was maybe dropping from 5 in 1,000 to 1, and 2 in 1,000 to 1. And these doctors did not understand the impact that a treatment or a imaging technique or a medicine was really doing. So this is called misleading communications of risk, and that is British Medical Journal 2010. And I should give you the author of this, Gerd Ginerenzer, Ginerenzer. And the other articles, this was called Evaluating the Association Between Low-Density Lipoprotein Cholesterol Reduction and Relative and Absolute Effects of Statin Treatment, And this is Paula Byrne, Byrne, PhD, and this was in just recently. It came out maybe a week or so ago, and that is in the BMJ.
Okay. Robert's comment did pop in. He says, at a cattle ranch, they gave cows an IQ test. Where did the smartest cows go?
I don't know.
To the collagen.
To the collagen. All right, Robert, I have one for you. I don't know, maybe you gave this one to me. What do you call a hen that is counting her little chicks? What do you call a hen that is counting her little chicks?
Don't know.
A mathemachicken. A mathemachicken.
All right, you guys with your corny jokes. Well, everybody, that is about it for our time today. We do we're trying out this half-hour show here on Fridays for a couple weeks. We'll see how this goes. Dr. Ellithorpe will be back to answer your questions Monday at 6:00 p.m. If your question did not get answered today, be sure to go to the link in the description of the video there at the bottom. You can post a question there anytime, 24/7, and we pull up those questions before your Monday night and also these Friday sessions to make sure we go through those. And we're now we're transcribing all of these questions and posting them onto our blog at our website, tlcdoctors.com. So you can always go back there and look for questions very quickly that interest you and learn.
Yeah, check out the joke section.
The joke section. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time today. We appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. And again, we're getting happy birthdays to you, Dr. Ellithorpe. Definitely celebrate you. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. We will see you Monday at 6:00. Be well.
God bless.